In this video, we take a look at 3 color adjustment imagers, including color correct, exposure, and white balance. So let's get started. As I would like to have an optics denoiser applied to my render, I'll add that first from the post tab of the IPR. And as we learned, denoiser imagers should always be on top of the imagers list. Now click on this add button to switch the filter from Gaussian to box. Now let's go ahead and add color correct, exposure, and white balance imagers to the list. And quickly run the IPR. Because we have optics denoiser, we need to wait for the IPR to be finished for the denoising to be applied and then start using our color adjustment imagers. If we had only the color adjustment imagers, we could have started working with them while the IPR was still running. Okay, now the IPR is finished. The first issue is coming from the optics denoiser because the clamping is turned on. We don't get the full dynamic range of the image, so let's disable clamping and this way we get our raw image. First, let's come down to the color correct imager, which allows you to adjust saturation, contrast, gamma, gain, and offset for the whole image or only for shadows, midtones, or highlights. Very self-explanatory settings. Using exposure imager, you can control the overall exposure of the render in f-stops, meaning each time you increase the exposure amount by 1 increment, you double the exposure of the image and vice versa. And white balance imager lets you correct the white balance of the render. You notice it has 3 self-explanatory modes and tons of preset. If I change the mode to temperature, I can manually use a Kelvin temperature scale to control the exact correction that I want. We can cast out warmer tones or cooler tones. If the mode is set to illuminant, there are tons of presets to be used. All of them are just using different temperature values. But they have descriptive names that can be very useful to render your image with proper white balance. And if you change the mode to custom, you can pick any color that you want. Now, if I take a look at the selection tab of this color adjustment imagers, you notice we have the same set of settings like all the other imagers. If you want this to be applied both to the IPR and to the final render, set the render mode to all. If you want them to be applied to the IPR for look dev purposes and not to the final render, change the render mode to IPR only. And if you want them to be applied only to the final render, change the render mode to batch only. Using this drivers dropdown, you can determine whether the imager will be applied to all your existing drivers, if you have multiple of them, or just the selected ones that you can specify them in here. And right now, because AOV's mode is set to beauty, the imagers are applied only to the beauty AOV. But if I change it to all, the imagers will be applied to all the available AOVs. So that's about color adjustment imagers. See you in the next one.